No one remembered when the war had started, only that it had never truly ended. Across the Orion Spur, the Aurelian Empire expanded with flawless efficiency. Star systems fell not because the Aurelians were cruel, but because resistance was pointless. Their fleets were overwhelming, their technology centuries ahead, and their ruler, Empress Couldn't Break Him, was said to possess a will so absolute that entire civilizations collapsed the moment she spoke judgment. Humanity had learned this the hard way. Earth was still standing, technically free, but only because it bent early. Treaties were signed. Resources were taxed. Soldiers were conscripted into joint defense initiatives, which was Aurelian language for service under their command. Human commanders followed orders they didn't understand, fighting enemies they'd never heard of, in wars that didn't belong to them. Sergeant Elias Rook was one of those soldiers. He wasn't special by any official measure. No genetic enhancements. No noble lineage. He had grown up in the lower stacks of New Carthage, enlisted to escape factory labor, and survived long enough to become useful. What set him apart wasn't strength or skill, it was refusal. Rook refused to internalize defeat. That was why, after the failed uprising on Kharon IX, he found himself kneeling alone in the Hall of Sovereigns, chains humming softly around his wrists. The chamber was impossibly vast, carved from obsidian crystal that reflected starlight from somewhere far above. At its center rose a throne of living metal, shifting subtly as if breathing. Upon it sat Empress Couldn't. She was taller than any human, her form slender and precise, skin pale as moonstone and marked with faint luminescent patterns that pulsed with her heartbeat. Her eyes, silver and depthless, regarded Elias Rook with detached curiosity. Around them stood her army. Thousands of elite Aurelian guards in ceremonial armor, weapons idle but ready. They had crushed the Kharon rebels in less than a day. Rook was the last survivor. "You are remarkably persistent," the Empress said, her voice carrying without amplification.
Calm.
Absolute. Most humans break long before this moment. Rook lifted his head despite the pain flaring through his shoulders. "Guess I missed the memo." A murmur rippled through the court. Humor was rare here. Insolence rarer. The Empress tilted her head slightly. "Do you understand where you are?" "Yeah," Rook said. "I'm standing in the room where hope comes to die." She considered him. Hope is an inefficient construct. It prolongs suffering. "Funny," he replied hoarsely. "Seems to keep you busy." Aurelian guards stepped forward, but the Empress raised a single finger. They stopped instantly. "You defied my army," she said. "Alone." "I had help," Rook said. "From people who believed they deserved a future. They are dead." They mattered anyway. For the first time, something flickered across Couldn't's expression. Not anger. Not curiosity. Interest. "You humans cling to meaning," she said. "Even when it brings you pain. I have studied this trait extensively. Then you know it's not something you can beat out of us." "We shall see." At her signal, the chains tightened. Pain exploded through Rook's nervous system, white-hot and all-consuming. He bit back a scream, teeth grinding as his vision blurred. "This is a resonance field," the Empress explained calmly. "It amplifies neural stress. Your body will urge you to submit. Your mind will follow." Rook gasped, sweat pouring down his face. "You talk too much for someone so confident." The field intensified. Memories surged, childhood hunger, endless drills, fallen comrades on Kharon IX. Regret clawed at him, whispering that surrender would make it stop. Still, he didn't bow his head. Minutes passed. Then hours. The court slowly emptied, leaving only the Empress, her guards, and the lone human who refused to break. Finally, Couldn't descended from her throne. She circled him, footsteps silent. "Do you know why I rule?" she asked. "Because you're stronger," Rook muttered. "No," she said. "Because I understand inevitability. Every being has a threshold. Find it, and control is absolute." She crouched before him, silver eyes inches from his own. "Tell me your threshold." Rook met her gaze, his voice raw. "You're looking at it." The pain surged again, harder this time. His muscles convulsed. Blood trickled from his nose. Still, he laughed. A broken, breathless sound. "That's it," he rasped. "That's all you've got?" The Empress straightened slowly. Something was wrong. Her sensors, biological and technological, fed her constant streams of data. Heart rate, cortisol levels, neural activity. Everything indicated Elias Rook should have collapsed into submission minutes ago. Instead, his resistance was stabilizing. "You are adapting," she said quietly. "Humans do that." She deactivated the field. The chains loosened. Rook slumped forward, barely conscious, but still unbroken. "Why?" Caliph asked. "Why endure this for a lost cause?" Rook took a long, shaking breath. "Because if I don't, then you're right. And I can't live in a universe where that's true." Silence filled the hall. For the first time in her reign, Empress Caliph felt something unfamiliar pressing against her thoughts. Doubt. She had conquered thousands of species. All had yielded eventually through fear, logic, or despair. But this human soldier had no leverage left to take, no future to promise, no pain she hadn't already inflicted. And yet he stood. "You believe defiance has value," she said. "I know it does," Rook replied. "Even when it fails." The Empress turned away, gazing up at the distant stars visible through the vaulted ceiling. "My empire is built on certainty, on the belief that resistance is temporary." Rook followed her gaze. Empires fall when they forget why people resist. She was silent for a long time. Then she spoke, softly, so softly that only he could hear. "If I release you," she said, "your people will call this a victory." "They'll call it hope," Rook said. "And hope," she murmured, "is contagious." She faced him again. "You will return to your world. You will speak of this moment. And in doing so, you will weaken my rule." "Yeah," Rook said. "That's kind of the point." A guard stepped forward. "Empress." She raised her hand. "Enough." The chains fell away completely. "You are free," Caliph said. "Not because you defeated me, but because I could not defeat you." Rook stared at her, stunned. "You're letting me go?" "I am studying a new variable," she replied. "One I underestimated." He rose slowly, every muscle screaming in protest. "Then study this." He met her eyes one last time. "We don't need to win," he said. "We just need to last." The Empress watched as he was escorted from the hall, his limp defiant, his spine unbowed. For the first time in centuries, the Aurelian court whispered, not in fear, but uncertainty. And Empress Caliph Vera remained standing before her throne, haunted by a single, irreversible truth. She had broken worlds, but she could not break him.